Here's a fun one. What's keeping you from moving LTT to Taiwan? I know you've got this before.
I have family here. I have a whole team of people who work here. Honestly,
you have a cult of people that work here.
There are
we'd come with.
There are things that I would probably like
Solution solved.
better about it. One of the major criticisms that we get is around the sloppiness of our work sometimes. So we had a thread on Reddit recently about how we had M.2 sizes. So 2230, 2260, 2280.
Right, I saw this.
Labeled megahertz in just a chart. It didn't really interfere with the meaning of the video. It wouldn't have misled anyone into purchasing the wrong product in any way or anything like that. But it could have been confusing, and it could have, and it certainly was sloppy. And one of the things that I was thinking about as I was over in Taipei, just like walking around during Computex this year, is if we had done what Luke asked, and if we had just, been like, forget it, let's just, run the company out of Taiwan now, finding a video editor who is a super techie would probably be easier.
A lot easier.
Right? Like there's challenges that are just inherent to scaling beyond just people who live and breathe tech, because this might surprise you, but the person who spends their life mastering video editing, or the person who spends their life mastering cinematography, or the person who spends their life mastering accounting didn't necessarily spend their life mastering PC hardware.
They might have, but probably not.
But they might not have. And I would say that, one single person can only reasonably be expected to be deeply knowledgeable about a handful of subjects. Probably somewhere between 3 and 8 is probably the most subjects that a single person could really have any level of mastery
Expertise
of.
or mastery,
Yeah. And so I would say that in a more tech-focused culture, it might be more likely that we would find people that have the overlapping masteries that we happen to need here.
And not 100%, but more likely.
And so as you grow as a company, you hire people who have masteries that are absolutely valuable and respectable, but are not necessarily PCB layout, And it's been a major growing pain for us, and it's something that there might be ways around, like I don't know, sure, like being located in somewhere like Taiwan, where there's just a ton of really really tech centric people. With that said, I think that it's fair to say that we'd probably have more spelling and punctuation errors in our videos at that point if we have people whose mastery, whose first language mastery wasn't English, right? So there's no silver bullet for anything like when it comes to growing a company. I mean, I think Jim Keller said it really well when he said that you could have a team of 10 geniuses. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said you could have a team of 10 geniuses, 100 above average performers, and by the time you get to 1,000 people, it's like a law of the universe that everyone's going to be like kind of mediocre. And I think that that's just something that we've kind of come up against, and that it's really easy to build a team that's all just like hyper focused on one thing, and it's really hard to develop a broader set of capabilities as a company while maintaining that hyper focus, because of course you can't, because all those people know and do other things, right?
Yeah.
I forget what the question was.
What's stopping you from moving to Taiwan?
Oh yeah. Our team is here. For better or for worse, I am probably too.
We're too established now.
Yeah. And
originally it was family. Now it's probably family, and we're too established now.
I probably worry too much about that sort of thing, though. A lot of companies just move if there's like a tax advantage. I don't really like to disrupt people's lives. We've been looking
Let's
at
do
other.
it.
Luke, there's not enough money in it for the shareholders.
It's not all just you.
Let's do it.
The shareholders would save money, Dan. The shareholders are super down.
Incredible amounts of money.
Yeah, it definitely isn't to do with that.
Yeah, but it's
Anyway.
not enough money.
I also have family here. A lot of the team has family here. We're pretty rooted at this point. And if we were going to move, we'd go to Seattle, Washington. You know, I've talked about this. Or Seattle, Washington. We'd go to Vancouver, Washington. We've already talked about this.
That is quite the move.
Oh, that's like...
To be clear,
the
I don't
play.
mean as in it's far. It's just like that's a very tactical move.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Vancouver, Washington would be a sick place.
That
to
would
have
be
the
killer.
company. Yeah.
Yeah. Vancouver, Washington, no state income tax, and you cross-border shop in Oregon where there's no sales tax.
And you're right next to Seattle, which is like a huge tech hub.
Yeah.
You have quick access to the Seattle Convention Center. If you were trying to run a convention and, you know, wanted the country or province that you're in, or in this case, state, to support you in any way, whatsoever, shape or form, that would have been really cool. Yeah, I don't know. Seems like a
Yes,
good place.
Washington also has a Vancouver. It turns out that particular dead white guy hung around like the whole Pacific Northwest. Imagine that, you know, being like, you know, that influential that you have a city in like 2 separate countries named after you.
Goals. Hey, DLO, my 8-year-old son.
Once we colonize like Mars, it's just all these cities called Dan.
This one's called Dan, and then we drive for an hour, and I'm gonna call this one Dan too.
I'm going to Dan. Which Dan?
The one with his no sales tax.
Let's be real. Every Dan would have no tax.
That's true.
Yeah. That's why everybody likes living in the Dans, dude.